Onyato tonight. The president orders INEC to ensure 100% distribution of permanent voters' cards before election. All Progressives Congress holds presidential rally in Calabar and Warri. General Muhammadu Buhari promises commitment to service. Department of State Services accuses APC of plotting to hack INEC's database. French president following deadly attack at Paris Magazine.
On business news tonight, Finance Ministry refutes claims that the country's foreign reserves are being mismanaged.
And on sports news tonight, double honors for Nigeria as Aruna Quadri wins the 2014 International Table Tennis Federation Best Male Player and Star Point Awards in Dubai.
The President has directed the Chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Professor Atahiru Jega, to ensure that all registered Nigerians get their permanent voters' cards before the general elections in February. President Goodluck Jonathan gave the directive shortly after the swearing-in of the INEC National Commissioner representing Oyo State, Professor Akinola Salao, at the Presidential Villa in Abuja. The President says the nation cannot afford to organize a general election where some people will be disenfranchised. The President, however, said he was pleased with the complaints because the clamor for PVCs was an indication that Nigerians have developed confidence in the nation's electoral process.
The awareness that has come on board that Nigerians want voters' cards. Before 2011, no Nigerian complained about cards. Before 2011, and that's why when some politicians talk, I laugh. Before 2011, how many Nigerians complained that they have not gotten cards? Because elections were not conducted with voters' cards. Nobody cared. We were all adults in Nigeria who knew what was happening. Some people came on board and sanitized the electoral process, but others want to take the glory. We have to commend ourselves. Today, ordinary Nigerians, biggest businessmen, religious leaders, the ordinary people are complaining, I want my card. I want my voter's card. Nobody talks about that before 2011. So people should commend us. And I'm pleased that people are talking about voters' cards. So, Chairman of INEC, luckily you are here. All Nigerians must get voters' cards. We cannot conduct an election where some people will not have the right to vote. People must decide who rules them at all levels, not just about presidential election. At the lowest level of election conducted by INEC, that is the state assembly elections, House of Rep, Senate, governors, and presidency, all Nigerians must vote. And INEC must do everything possible to make sure that all Nigerians have their voters' cards. Because we cannot accept a situation where some Nigerians will not vote that day.
In the meantime, the President has dismissed insinuations in some quarters that he hates the northern part of the country. Well, President Goodluck Jonathan, who received a delegation of the Northern Elders Council at the Presidential Villa, wondered what informed such beliefs. He also frowned on the attitude of some people who make provocative statements just to create enmity and division in the country. Citing projects executed by his administration in the north and the appointment of many northerners into key positions in his government, the President said he would provide documents to prove his critics wrong. The President stated that out of the 12 new federal universities established by his administration, 9 were in the north, while only 3 were in the south. The chairman of NEC, Alhaji Tanko Yakasai, said the purpose of the visit was to formally present members of the body to the President. Well, the All Progressive Congress appears to be keeping no one in doubt about its preparedness to wrest power from the ruling People's Democratic Party. And to achieve this feat, the party leadership and presidential flag bearer took their campaign train to Calabar, Cross River State, and Warri in Delta State. Our correspondent Olu Phillips reports.
It appears a very busy schedule for the All Progressives Congress in the bid to wrestle power from the ruling party.
change.
After the flag-off for their presidential campaign in Port Harcourt, the River State capital, the train is making a stop here in Calabar. Although devoid of all the trappings of glitz, glamour and personalities that graced the flag-off, the message remains the same. Power must change hands. All that done and over, the party's flag bearer made his way to the platform.
The government of APC will attack head-on its security and the economy. My next appeal to you is to make sure you get your permanent voter's card. And you make sure on the election day, come rain, come sunshine, try and put up with any extortion or problem put before you. Go and vote and make sure your vote counts.
From Calabar, the campaign train of General Buhari moved on to the oil-rich city of Warri in Delta State.
Do you want change in Delta State? We want to thank you, we want to appreciate you, and we ask you to stand firm as soldiers of change. In Edo State, we did it. And I know in Delta State, you will do it even better.
Here, the presidential flag bearer promised that his administration will apply the party's manifesto to the polity if elected at the 2015 polls.
We intend to secure this country as soon as we can and efficiently manage it. We do not like the unemployment, the suffering, the low standard of education, the lack of health care, the destruction of the infrastructure. APC government will look for competent, committed Nigerians to lead ministries and parastatals so that we can make rapid development.
Other highlights of the event was the presentation of flag to the governorship candidate of Delta State, Olorogun Ortega.
It is my pleasure to present this symbol of the APC to the next governor of Delta State, Olorogun Ortega.
The general ends his campaign today with a pledge to tackle unemployment across Nigeria and also revive the 4 refineries in the country. Olu Phillips, Channels Television News.
Now, ahead of the general elections next month, victims of the 2011 post-election violence in Kaduna State have staged a protest over what they claim is the failure of the federal government to compensate them 4 years after the violence that claimed many lives. Addressing journalists in Kaduna, the victims said they have been unfairly treated by the government and have threatened to storm Abuja, the nation's capital, if the situation persists. They also threatened to boycott the forthcoming general elections if the federal government fails to pay the said compensation.
Upon the announcement of the 2011 presidential election results by the Independent National Electoral Commission declaring President Goodluck Jonathan as winner, angry youth took to the streets in some northern cities in violent protests. Kaduna had its own share of the crisis as many people were killed and property destroyed. Christians, Muslims, women and men, young and old, were all affected.
No compensation, no votes.
These are some of the victims in Kaduna State, made up of several ethnic nationalities, including the Igbo, Yoruba, Fulani and Hausa. Some lost loved ones and breadwinners, while others lost their houses and other possessions to the incident. Many of them had been relieved when President Goodluck Jonathan announced the compensation to the victims 2 years ago. But sadly, these people in Kaduna State allege that they've been left out, prompting their decision to protest publicly.
It is on record that the federal government of Nigeria, under the leadership of Dr. Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, GCFR, constituted a presidential panel of investigation to look into the matter and make recommendations, which was done. The president, while receiving the report, of the investigation panel, which indicated that Kaduna State suffered 80% of the casualties, promised to compensate the victims.
The protesters, who carried placards with various inscriptions, complained that no assistance has come their way and are calling on the relevant authorities to pay the compensation before the next general elections.
I am from Kafanchan. The market destroyed, everything destroyed. So we are calling on government, encourage us a little, do what is going to help us, especially the tenant. Just as my counterpart said from Zaria, the tenants, remember them, nothing has been done about them. If this is done, we shall be encouraged to vote again.
We were surprised that even some people who lost their lives, their property, many of them could not do anything. Some left Zaria and went home. Some waited and could not get anything to eat. And up till now, we have never heard anything about them.
With the elections fast approaching, it will be considered fair that those saddled with the responsibility of compensating the victims do so urgently, and more importantly, that the government and security agencies do everything to forestall a recurrence of the ugly incident of 2011.
In part 2, after the break, PDP and APC engage in war of words over contests for the presidency. That's in a moment. Do stay with us.